Good morning. My name is Leigh Finke. My pronouns are she, her. I represent District 66A, the Minnesota House of Representatives, and I am the chair of the Queer Legislative Caucus. We are gathered here this morning to mourn the life of Savannah Ryan Williams. Savannah was murdered on November 29th in Minneapolis near the Lake Street Light Rail Station. Her family and friends are with us today, and you will hear from them shortly. But I have one message I would like to share before we get to that. Savannah should be alive today. Because Savannah is a trans woman, she is dead. Transphobia is rampant in America, and it is deadly. Our community faces a constant threat of lethal violence in the United States. This is particularly true for Black, Indigenous, Latin, and immigrant trans women and femmes. Such individuals are pushed to the margin by families and friends, ignored by support systems, and erased from public view. To be seen as ourselves, we must withdraw from those spaces meant to provide us safety, because such spaces refuse to even acknowledge our basic humanity. Even in death, we are degraded by police and media. Today, we remember Savannah, but I want to be clear, none of this is unique to today. None of this is unique to the trans community. Minnesota has created a task force for missing and murdered Indigenous relatives and for missing and murdered Black women and girls. And these are essential offices. The physical, social, and political violence faced by the trans communities in this country is the same violence faced by all of our communities, and we must all fight together for a just future if we are to succeed. For trans people in this country, there is no mystery regarding how this circumstance has come to be. Our very existence is debated daily in the press. Religious and political leaders degrade our humanity, humiliate our youth, and call for our eradication. We live in a nation where the former president and the current Speaker of the House of the United States are calling down the wrath of God, of their God, upon us. We live in a state where elected members of the legislature belittle and mock us in debate and on the radio, where school districts work tirelessly to erase us completely. Despite this effort, our community perseveres. Our community is strong and limitless. We will never stop fighting. We will never stop fighting. Every single one of our siblings is loved by the people you see up here. Savannah is a beloved member of our community, and she should still be alive. She deserved to have a life. This year, we made Minnesota a trans refuge state. The Queer Caucus, along with the governor and lieutenant governor and so many supporters here, are working all the time to make Minnesota a place for trans people to call home, a safe place for trans people to call home. We will do everything we can to protect our family. But laws are not enough. In these conditions, policy cannot save us. Anti-trans violence is an epidemic. It is everywhere. Our communities will not be safe until every one of our neighbors sees our humanity, celebrates our individuality, and embraces this beautiful community that loves and is worthy of love. I'm going to pass it over to Amber from Tea Time at Aliveness to hear more about Savannah.
Hello, my name is Amber Mum, she, her pronouns. I am a HIV outreach and prevention specialist at the Aliveness Project, and I'm one of the co-leads of the Tea Time support group for trans women and trans femmes. I just wanted to say on behalf of Aliveness and the entire Tea Time group, how sad we are about the situation, how devastated we are. I was talking with everyone like in our online community and in person about how much she meant to us, how much this has rocked our little community of people in our little safe space. Savannah was fierce, full of life. She had a big personality and an even bigger heart. She's going to be dearly, dearly missed. We're all still processing. It's kind of surreal that we lost one of our sisters last week. We were honored to have her as a part of Tea Time, a part of our little trans community space that we have for trans femmes and trans women, the Liveness Project hosts. It's really important to have those community spaces for us to feel safe, to feel supported, to be able to address the material needs, the emotional needs and whatnot of trans women and femmes in particular in our community. And that's why this hits us so hard. This is the second attack of a trans woman on Lake Street in the same area. Like, the suspect fled the scene from the same station that a trans woman was attacked at earlier this year. And it needs to stop. We need to be able to walk down the street and be safe. We need to be able to exist in public and not constantly be afraid for our lives. And this is the third attack this year, acknowledging the Nudieland shooting that happened at a queer and mostly trans punk show. And all of these are hate crimes, and it needs to stop. As Representative Finke said, just on a national stage, we are being vilified, we are being, made out to be monsters, and we're human beings. We are women, we are femmes, we are members of your community. We deserve safety and equity and housing and rights just like everyone else does. Talking to community leaders that we've been looking for is funding for services for equity to trans women and femmes, especially trans women of color who are disproportionately affected by everything going on. So like housing, material needs, getting jobs, safe community spaces. We need to end the trans panic defense in Minnesota that is still on the books. It is very relevant to this case. That's why we don't have Savannah here with us today. And we need to continue pushing for the trans rights legislation that we had a great legislative session with that this last legislative session, but we need to keep going in the coming year. And we miss Savannah dearly, and she should be here with us today. And our hearts are broken, but we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep pushing, and we're going to make Minneapolis the best trans community in the country. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First, I want everyone to know that Savannah, my sister, had a big heart, and that one word erases all her past mistakes. But you out there need to open your hearts and be willing to look past her past mistakes and judge her off her beautiful soul and knowing she was a loving and kind person. Savannah is our superstar. Do you have a superstar? If you answered yes, please don't judge her, because she wouldn't judge you. This statement I'm going to say now is very important. Her gender, past, and criminal record wasn't why she was murdered. She was murdered because Bible was curious, or should we use word suspicious? From the beginning to the end, encountered. I just would like the world to know that Savannah meant the world to me and my kids. She would give me her last, and she was very loved by our family. Thank you.
My name is Kat Rohn. I use they or she pronouns, and I'm the executive director of Outfront Minnesota, our state's largest LGBTQ advocacy organization. I join my community members and partners in this work in mourning Savannah, and I extend my deepest sympathies to all those who knew her well, her family, her friends, those who she knew through community. Thank you especially to those who have shared your personal reflections on your experiences with her. I think it's so deeply important that we recognize and remember her as a person and not as a statistic. I hold space for all those who are grieving Savannah and to all members of our community who may be experiencing pain and uncertainty in this moment. It's hard to feel safe in the midst of an event like this, and that feeling of unsafeness is one that so many in our trans community have to hold on a daily basis. When I gathered with our community on Transgender Day of Remembrance only a few weeks ago, I noted that we in Minnesota should rightfully be proud of the policies and supports we have for LGBTQ folks here in the state, but those are not felt evenly across all of our communities, and particularly for trans women of color, longstanding and systemic inequities persist, and this is a painful reminder of those realities. In a national landscape where our place in public life is being actively challenged, where hateful rhetoric and threats of violence continue to escalate, we must speak up. We must take action. As an organization that fields calls daily about experiences of violence, discrimination, and harm across this state, I urge us to recommit ourselves to making change, especially to those of us here within this Capitol building. But for Savannah and others, change will have come too late. Let us hold space for her and all those in our community who are grieving today, and may we continue to gather as community to support one another and build a future where we can all live fully and authentically, free from violence and harm. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindsey Port. I use she, her pronouns. I am the senator for District 55, which represents Burnsville and Savage in the South Metro. Last session, we made a promise to the people of our state, and more specifically to the trans community across the country, that Minnesota would be a place where trans folks could grow and work and learn and access health care, where they could live their lives freely as their whole selves. Guided by the leadership of members of the Queer Caucus and the Reproductive Freedom Caucus, we passed the Trans Refuge Bill in a moment when other states are criminalizing trans existence. It was one of the proudest moments of my life as we lit a flame of hope and love to shine out into the darkness of hate. For Savannah, that flame did not protect her. Our work, though critically important, was not enough. Legislation alone will not protect our transgender community as messages of hate and othering continue to spew forth in our communities. When Senator McQuaid brought the Trans Refuge Bill to the floor of the Senate, we heard disinformation, misplaced fear, and hate from some of our colleagues. We hear those same messages on cable news, on talk radio. What we say matters. Our words have consequences. We must do better. Look, I care about this issue because Minnesotans and community members are hurting and dying. But I can tell you that for all of us up here, this is personal. Whenever we move any sort of queer legislation, let alone trans legislation, Representative Finke gets death threats. To do this work, to serve her community, she and her family consistently have threats on their lives. One of my staffers is trans, and every time we move one of these bills, or worse yet, when an anti-trans bill comes up, he has to listen to the people that he works with, that he walks through these halls with, deny his right to exist. Can you imagine going to work in your community, knowing that some of the people you work with don't believe you should exist? Can you imagine walking down the street knowing that the people you are buying groceries next to might deny your right to a full life? Could you live your life knowing that your neighbors may believe you are not worthy of your life? That is the world that the trans community lives in every day. They deserve better. They deserve to be their whole selves without the fear of being targeted with violence simply for existing. We are living in a moment when violence, incidences of harassment, violence, and even murder are increasing for trans people, especially for trans women and femmes of color. By the FBI's tracking, hate crimes based on gender identity increased by 32% between 2021 and 2022. I refuse to sit by while members of our community are attacked simply for who they are. As a member of the Queer Caucus and the Senate Chair of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus, I reconfirm our commitment to move forward with legislation to protect the trans community, to speak out when hate for our trans brothers and sisters is spoken in these halls, and to grow the flame of hope for a better future, a future that Savannah deserved.
We will open the floor for questions, recognizing that we expect them to be asked with the dignity that all of our communities deserve.
Could we get the name of Savannah's sister and your spelling of your name?
Gabrielle Stilday, Gabrielle, Stilday, Stilday.
Would you mind sharing the ethnicity, nationality, and heritage of Savannah?
Native American and Cuban.
My name is Madison McMahon. I'm a reporter at the Minnesota Reformer. I just wanted to open up if there's any friends or family of Savannah who wanted to share any more about who she was.
I will.
I'd like for everyone, okay. Okay. Sounds great. So, Savannah had such a great heart. I would like to start by saying that start by saying that her past mistakes did not define who she was as a person. Savannah was outgoing, very outspoken, and lit up every room that she walked in. Although we are so sad that she is gone and heartbroken, the love, the laugh, the memories she gave will live on forever in our hearts. Let this be a start for her and other transgenders in our community to be awareness for everyone in the community. Even though Savannah is gone, her legacy will live on forever through her friends of transgender community and herself. Thank you. My name is Raylan Stilday. I'm her cousin. Thank you.
Yeah, I can go again. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Fav, and I'm with NPR News. I know that y'all have talked about kind of media coverage. Wanted to just ask, because it was in the court records, was Savannah a sex worker, and is that something that she was open about and would want the public to know?
Was she a what? Sex worker. Oh, no. She wasn't.
And can I add something?
Please.
So yeah, she wasn't, but regardless of whether she was or not, like, that doesn't mean that we get to be treated as disposable and killed by cisgendered men in, you know, after they're done using us for what they want out of us. It's horrible. Like, every trans femme, including myself, like, you know, even those of us who do have sexual relations with cis men, like, we're terrified about it. Like, I can't tell you the number of times when I've been on a date and it happens and then I get done and I have to, like, you know, tell people where I am, make sure I have protection on me, bring my own water and whatnot. You know, and it's just, yeah, regardless of what we do to support ourselves in this world that is actively not built for us, that doesn't mean that we should get murdered for it. And on the other point, like, if sex work were decriminalized, then we wouldn't be put in these situations where we're, you know, out at 5 a.m. with people who are gonna shoot us in the head when they're done with us.
Do you mind, Brittany Arnold with Channel 5, do you mind breaking down some of those inequities when it comes to getting housing and jobs? Like, is it difficult for this community?
It's extremely difficult, and I'm a community organizer. Like, I know just for getting jobs, you know, it's our documentation. Like, our documentation doesn't match, or, you know, people will call and be like, hey, I'm looking for this person, and you'll answer like, oh, but no, I'm looking, you know, based on your voice. Getting housing, I have personally, I wore this shirt to get housing this summer and was denied because I was trans in the Lake Phelan neighborhood by a private renter. Like, it happens all the time. Not to mention the fact that because we can't get jobs, we don't have the money to get housing. There's no affordable housing for us. It took me, you know, I moved down from St. Cloud and it took me months to find a place for me and my 2 kids. And, you know, I can just speak, I'm only speaking for myself, but like, I'm also neurodivergent, and that has a huge impact when workplaces don't have accommodations for us. You know, we try to get jobs, we try to show up and do our work, and trans people are some of the hardest workers that I know. But when we go to a workplace that doesn't respect our pronouns, that constantly misgenders and dead names us, that doesn't protect us when people, you know, are transphobic and transmisogynistic in particular to our faces, it's not an environment that we want to be in. And that's the number, as a community organizer, the number one thing that I hear from people is, well, the 2 things are housing and finding a job. So it's a lot of different factors that go into that, but especially with, you know, we are a trans refuge state. We have not only the families of trans kids coming, but we have just anecdotally so many trans people moving here. It's only going to get worse, the housing crisis.
Would you say some of those inequities possibly played a role in the death of Savannah?
I mean, I don't feel comfortable commenting on the specific situation on that. I will say that, you know, I know for myself personally, like, I've had to put myself in sketchy situations just to survive. I've had to do things that if I had equity, if I had funds, if I had proper housing, that I wouldn't have had to do. And it needs to be addressed. That's what I'm gonna say about that.
Do any family members or friends have comments on that? Yeah.
Gabriel would like to respond to that too.
My brother Giorgio Stilday wanted me to say something on his behalf. He wanted the world to know how helpful and loving Savannah was. He is currently homeless, and every time he's seen Savannah, she'll give him the shoes off her feet and go barefooted. I am his little sister, and I have 4 kids, and she always gave us stuff, and I told her to keep it. She needs it more than me, and she always reminded me that she was my big sister, and big sisters take care of little sisters, and that you don't give me stuff, I give you stuff. And she was just she wasn't selfish at all, and I have a home to go to. I have money, I have the things I have, and she always gave to me and never took from me. And she'll give to me at her lowest. And she would make me take it too. I would deny it, and she would leave it and walk away and say, I'm gone. In her words, to be really honest about her personality, she'd be like, you better take it, I'm gone, bitch. Don't give it back to me. Like, seriously. And I'm just being real. That's who she was. And I just want the world to know that she was a very kind and loving person. And she was my kids and my niece, that was their favorite auntie. Because she always was good to them and always had something for them every time she came around. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when our community suffers a tragedy like this, what we hear often about are pasts, right? And when you face these inequities, there's no doubt that the compounding reality of people in the trans community, Indigenous trans folks, trans and women and femmes of color face a situation that makes their lives pushed out of the side, pushed to the side, pushed to the fringes. So we will hear more from the media about criminal records, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about acts of survival, a theft, sex acts. These are acts of survival. This is not representative of anything other than our society's failure to care for this community, which faces death and violence every single day, every time we are in public. So there is zero space for talk about a criminal record in these conversations. We are talking about how can we survive? What do we need to do to continue, just to continue to live? I'm being told we are wrapping up here. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, everyone. And I'm so sorry.